She should never have said it to me with my girlfriend, sleeping 10 feet away. "If you love my daughter," Elena whispered, "then what happened between us ends in that mountain." I stared at her like I had heard the wrong words. My hands were still shaking. Not from the cold anymore. From her. From me. From the thing neither of us was brave enough to name. Behind the closed bedroom door, Ava was finally asleep after crying herself empty. She thought I had kept her mother alive. She thought I had done something good. And maybe I had. That was the part that made it worse. Elena stood across from me in the dim hallway, her face calm in a way that almost made me angry. Her sweater sleeves were pushed to her wrists. Her hair was loose. She looked like a woman trying to put herself back together before morning came. "Oh, say something," she said. I opened my mouth, then shut it again. Because the truth was ugly. I loved Ava, and I could still feel her mother's breath on my neck. "So tell me this. If one terrible night gives you a secret that can break the person you love most, does staying silent make you loyal or just weak?" My name is Mason Reed. I was 25 when that happened, and before that weekend, I honestly thought I understood what kind of man I was. Quiet, careful, predictable. The kind of guy who kept his life small enough that nothing could explode. I lived outside Denver in a plain apartment with cheap blinds and a desk that took up half my living room. I built websites for local businesses, coffee shops, small gyms, family-owned places that wanted better online booking and cleaner pages. I liked the work because code made sense. Problems had reasons. Bugs had fixes. People were harder. That was one reason Ava Hart felt like a miracle when she came into my life. She was the opposite of me in every way that mattered. Loud where I was quiet. Warm where I was guarded. She laughed with her whole body. She talked to strangers like they were future friends. The first day we met, she spilled a latte on my laptop bag and somehow turned my annoyed silence into a 2-hour conversation. I fell for her slowly at first, then all at once. She made life feel less like something to manage and more like something to live. And because life likes a cruel joke, the one person who always made me feel like she could see straight through me was Ava's mother, Elena Hart. She was 44, sharp-eyed, controlled. You know, the kind of woman who never wasted a word and never asked a question unless you wanted the real answer. Ava adored her, said she was the strongest person she knew, a former war photographer, a woman who had seen things most people could not even imagine, and still managed to come home and raise a daughter on her own. I had met her a few times before Aspen. Dinner at Ava's place once, coffee another time, a birthday lunch where Elena watched the room more than she joined it. She was never rude to me. That almost made it worse. She was polite, calm, interested just enough to be impossible to read. When she looked at me, I always had the strange feeling that she was measuring something I had not said out loud yet. Ava thought I was imagining it. "She likes you," Ava told me once, curled against me on my couch. "Oh, she studies me like I'm a witness on trial." Ava laughed. "That's just her face. Maybe. But some faces make you feel safe. Elena's made me feel seen. The Aspen trip was Ava's idea, of course. She sold it like it was a cure for everything. 2 days, she said, sitting in my lap while I tried to finish work. Snow, good food, a fireplace, no laptop. You need this. I need deadlines, I told her. You need a life. Then she kissed me until I stopped pretending I had an argument. I only hesitated when she said her mom was coming too. Not because I disliked Elena. That would have been easier. I just did not know how to relax around her. Around Ava, I could be awkward and still feel loved. Around Elena, every weakness in me felt lit up. We drove to Aspen on a Friday. Ava made playlists and sang badly on purpose. I drove. And Elena sat in the back for most of the trip with a book in her lap she barely touched. Every now and then, Ava would twist around and pull her into a conversation. Elena always answered, but briefly, like her mind was elsewhere. By the time we reached the lodge, Ava was glowing. That was the word for her when she was happy. Glowing. She ran from window to window like a kid, taking photos, making plans, telling me what we were going to do before I had agreed to any of it. The place was exactly what she loved. Wood beams, deep chairs, big windows. The kind of a lodge people used when they wanted to feel like they had escaped their real life for a prettier one. At dinner that night, Ava announced she had already made friends with a group who were going snowboarding in the morning. "You're coming too," she told me. "No, I'm really not." She gave me a fake, offended look. "You cannot come all the way here just to hide indoors." "I absolutely can. Watch me." Elena glanced up from her drink, and for a second I thought she might side with Ava. Instead, she said, "Not everybody enjoys falling down a mountain for fun." Ava pointed at her mother. "Traitor." I laughed before I meant to. Ava narrowed her eyes at both of us, then smiled. "Fine. Be boring together." That should have sounded harmless. It did sound harmless. That is the thing about the moments that ruin you. They rarely knock before they enter. The next morning, Ava was up before either of us. She kissed me with cold lips and too much energy, then rushed out in layers of winter gear and perfume. "Do not spend the whole day hiding in your room," she ordered. "No promises, Mom. And don't let him turn into furniture." Elena, standing near the coffee station, with a mug in her hand, gave one small nod. "I'll do what I can." Ava grinned and was gone. The lodge felt different after that. Quieter. Like someone had removed the music from the air. I sat with my coffee and stared out at the mountains, trying to decide whether I wanted to read, answer emails, or go back to bed. Elena walked into the common room dressed for the outdoors. Boots, dark jacket. That same red scarf I would later know too well. She stopped near my chair. "You look restless," she said. "I look comfortable." "You look like a man pretending comfort and avoidance are the same thing." I looked up at her. "Do you always talk like that before breakfast?" "Only when I'm right." I should have laughed it off. Instead, I asked her, "Oh, and what are you doing?" "Walking." "Alone?" She lifted one shoulder. "Unless you'd rather stay here and lose an argument with your own thoughts." There was no flirtation in it. No softness. Just a challenge, and maybe that was why I stood. The trail started easy. That is all I will say about it now, because the worst part of that day was not getting lost. It was what being lost stripped away. At first, the silence between us felt normal. Then it started feeling honest. She asked me questions Ava never did. Not kinder questions, sharper ones. Why did I choose work that kept me alone? Why did I answer emotional things with jokes? Why did I act like being needed was a threat? I tried dodging. Elena did not let me. Not aggressively, just patiently. And like she knew most people told the truth when they got tired of hiding from it. So I told her things I had not planned to say. That an ex once told me I loved people from behind glass. That Ava was the first person who made me want to stop living like that. That sometimes loving someone bright makes you afraid they will eventually notice how dark you can be. Elena listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Ava sees more than you think. She just chooses love first." I remember that line because it stayed with me. I wish a lot more had stayed simple after that. By the time the sky changed, we were farther out than I realized. By the time the trail disappeared, I was already blaming myself. By the time I admitted out loud that I did not know the way back, Elena was cold enough that I heard her teeth hit once when she spoke, and still, even then, she did not panic. She looked at me and said very calmly, "You do not get to fall apart first, Mason. Not while I still need you to think." That was the moment the day stopped being a walk. That was the moment she stopped being just my girlfriend's mother and became a woman trusting me with her life. And before that night was over, she would trust me with something even more dangerous. I wish I could tell you I became brave the second things went wrong. I did not. I became useful first. There is a difference. The wind came hard and fast, like somebody had torn open the side of the mountain and let winter rush straight through it. 1 minute, I could still make out the line of trees ahead of us. The next, everything was white and moving. I pulled out my phone. No signal. I turned in a slow circle, yet trying to find the trail markers we had passed on the way up, but the snow was already covering our tracks. Every direction looked like the same bad decision. Elena. She was a few feet behind me, one hand braced against a tree, red scarf snapping in the wind. "We need to move," she said. "I know." "Then choose." That should not have helped, but it did. Panic makes you feel like your thoughts are crowded. Her voice cut through that. Not gentle, not cruel, clear. "We go downhill," she said. "Lower ground, better chance of shelter." We could make it worse. We already make it worse by standing here. I hated that she was right, so we moved. The snow got deeper fast. Each step felt like lifting weight with my knees. The cold found every weak place in my clothes and slid in. My face burned, and my fingers ached even inside my gloves. I kept checking over my shoulder to make sure Elena was still with me. She never complained. That scared me more than if she had. People who complain are still fighting. People who go too quiet are slipping. I started talking just to keep her answering me. "Tell me when you need to stop." "Not yet." "How are your hands?" "Cold." "Feet?" "Still mine." That almost made me laugh, but the sound died in my throat. The light was changing too fast. The kind of gray that makes the whole world feel thinner. We were not just lost anymore. We were running out of day. Then Elena stumbled. I caught her by the arm before she hit the snow. She looked annoyed more than shaken. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." "I'm still moving." I kept my hand on her arm a second longer than I needed to. And through the thick coat, I could still feel the tremor in her. Her skin was cold, even through the fabric. That frightened me in a direct, physical way. It stripped everything down to one simple truth. If I failed here, Ava would lose her mother because of me, and I would have to live with that forever. I moved closer to block some of the wind from her side. "Stay with me." Elena looked at me then, really looked. There was no sharpness in her face anymore. Just strain, fatigue, a kind of honesty cold drags out of people whether they want it or not. "I am with you," she said quietly. We kept going. I do not know how long. Long enough for my legs to shake. Long enough for my thoughts to get smaller and meaner. Long enough for survival to stop feeling like an idea and start feeling like a job you could fail at any second. And then Elena lifted her hand and pointed. At first I saw nothing. Then through the blur of trees and snow, I caught the shape of a structure. Dark wood, sloped roof, half hidden by drifts. A cabin. We almost ran to it, if stumbling faster counts as running. I hit the door shoulder first because my hands were too numb to work the latch properly. It gave with a dry groan. Inside the air was dead and cold, but still. No wind. No snow in my face. 4 walls and a roof felt like mercy. I shut the door behind us and leaned against it, breathing hard. The place looked abandoned. A narrow bench, a rusted stove, shelves with old cans, a dented kettle, broken tools. In the corner, a stack of rough wool blankets and a small pile of firewood someone had left behind. Elena pressed a hand to the wall and closed her eyes. "We were alive," I said, more to myself than to her. "For now," she answered. That snapped me back into motion. I got the stove open, found old paper, split the driest wood I could, and worked the matches with fingers that barely felt human. The first match died. The second broke. The third caught. When the flame finally took, I almost laughed from relief. Heat came slow, but it came. I found a can of soup that had not rusted through and warmed it in the kettle. We shared it without speaking much. It tasted like salt and metal, and the best thing I had ever eaten. After that, I noticed Elena's hands again. She was holding the tin cup, but barely. Her fingers were stiff. Her lips had gone pale. The fire was helping, but not enough. "You need the blankets." "So do you." "I'm serious." "So am I." Even then, she was impossible. And I grabbed 2 blankets and sat beside her on the bench. "This is not a debate." She gave me a look. "You get bossy when you're scared. I get practical." "That too." Her voice was weaker now. That scared me more than anything else had. I wrapped one blanket around her shoulders and another around both of us. At first there was still space between us. Then another wave of shivering hit her so hard, I heard her teeth click. "Come here," I said. Her eyes lifted to mine. It was a small sentence, a dangerous one. Not because of what I meant by it, but because of what it could sound like in any other room on any other night. Elena held my gaze for one long second, then moved closer. I put my arm around her because body heat mattered, because warmth mattered, because survival was still the only thing that was supposed to matter. Now her head lowered against my shoulder. I felt her breath through my shirt, and something inside me tightened. Not desire, not at first. Recognition. Of loneliness, of how tired she was, of how human she suddenly felt. The woman who always seemed built from steel was shaking in my arms, trying to stay alive. We sat like that for a while, listening to the stove tick and the storm beat at the walls. Then Elena said very softly, "Ava thinks I am stronger than I am." I did not answer right away. "She loves you," I said. "She loves an edited version of me." The words settled between us. I looked into the stove. "I think most people do that. Love the version that hurts them less." She let out the faintest breath that could have been a laugh. "Is that what you do?" she asked. "And give people the version of you that costs the least?" I could have lied. I was too tired to. "Yes." "Why?" "Because if they know how much fear is underneath everything, they leave." She was quiet for a moment. "Who taught you that?" I thought of old breakups, of silence, of being called distant enough times that it started sounding like my name. "No one had to," I said. "I learned." Her hand shifted under the blanket and caught the front of my jacket, almost without meaning to, like a child grabbing something solid in the dark. "I know that trick," she whispered. "Survive first. Feel later." I turned toward her a little. "And does that work?" "For a while." That was when I said the thing I had not meant to say out loud. "You look tired of surviving." She went still, not offended, not angry, seen. And I felt it the moment the words landed. Elena raised her face slowly. Firelight moved across her eyes. For the first time since I had known her, she looked unguarded. "Yes," she said. "Just that. Yes." No speech, no explanation. It hit me harder than anything dramatic could have. Outside, the storm slammed the cabin again. Inside, something quieter and more dangerous shifted. She was still holding my jacket. I was still holding her. And both of us knew the cold was no longer the only thing making it hard to breathe. Then Elena spoke. barely above a whisper. "If tonight leaves anything behind," she said, "don't let it reach my daughter." I looked at her, confused at first by the wording. Then I understood what she really meant. Not just survival, not just fear, anything, any weakness, any mistake. At any moment that belonged only to this mountain and should never follow us home. My throat tightened. "Elena." But I did not finish, because she was already looking at me like she knew exactly where the danger was now. And so did I. I should have moved away then. That would have been the clean version of the story. Pull the blanket tighter, feed the stove, keep my eyes on the fire, wait for morning. Come home with nothing but a scare and a story about survival. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was. Elena was still in my arms. Not clinging now, just there. Close enough that I could feel the tremble leaving her body little by little. The cabin had gone quiet, except for the wind outside and the small, sharp sounds of wood settling in the stove. Her words were still hanging between us. "Don't let it reach my daughter." And I understood what she meant, because I was already fighting the same thing. Not lust, not fantasy. The danger was intimacy. Real, stripped down, frightened intimacy. The kind that sneaks in when two people stop pretending to be who the world needs them to be. I swallowed hard and looked at the fire. "This was my fault," I said. "The trail. Coming out here. All of it. No. It was my idea." "It was a walk," Anna said. "The storm is not your character flaw, Mason." I let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh. "You really do talk like that. It helps when people are being stupid." I should have felt insulted. Instead, I felt steadier. That was her gift, I think. Not comfort. Clarity. After a while, she shifted enough to look at me. "Yet you need to hear this while we are both still cold and tired and honest." That tone in her voice made my chest tighten. "You love her," she said. It was not a question. "Yes." "Then hold on to that." I nodded. But Elena kept watching me, like she was waiting for more truth than one word could carry. "I do," I said again, quieter this time. "I love Ava. More than I've loved anyone." The fire cracked. Outside, the storm pressed against the cabin walls. Elena lowered her eyes for a second, and when she looked back up, something in her face had changed. Not hope, not invitation. Something sadder than both. "She trusts easily," Elena said. "That's one of the best things about her. It's also the thing that can wound her deepest." "I know. Do you?" That landed harder than I wanted it to. Because the truth was, knowing a thing and being worthy of it are not the same. I looked down at my hands. "I'm trying to be the man she thinks I am." Elena's reply came soft and sharp at once. "No, be better than that. Be the man she can keep trusting after life stops being easy." I wish I could tell you that line fixed me. It did not. But I remember it because it felt like being handed a choice while I still had time to make one. The cabin went quiet again. Then another hard wave of wind hit the wall, and Elena flinched without meaning to. Instinct moved faster than thought. I pulled her closer, and she let me. Her forehead brushed my jaw. Everything in me went still. There are moments when your whole life feels balanced on something so small, it almost seems laughable. A breath, a glance, a hand that does not move away. And Elena tilted her face up then. Not much. Just enough. It would be easy to lie here, easy to make it dramatic, easy to say the storm made strangers out of us and need made fools of us. That is not what happened. What happened was smaller and worse. Her lips touched mine for a second. Just 1 second. A tired, being human mistake. Not hunger, not pursuit. Not some hidden affair waiting for weather to give it a door. Just two lonely people in the wrong place at the wrong time, forgetting for one breath who else that moment belonged to. I pulled back first. Or maybe we both did. I do not know. I only know that when I opened my eyes, Elena looked shattered by the same truth I was feeling. "We can't," she said. "I know." But my voice sounded thin, useless. She moved away then, not far, just enough to put truth back where it belonged. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself and stared at the stove like it had offended her. "I am sorry," she said after a long silence. I shook my head. "So am I." Neither of us tried to explain it. That would have made it uglier. Instead, we sat there through the rest of the night with a careful distance between us, feeding the stove, speaking only when necessary. About the wood, the weather, whether morning would come clear enough for us to move. But silence has weight when two people are trying not to remember the same thing. I did not sleep much. Every time my eyes closed, Ava's face rose in front of me. Her laugh, her trust, the way she loved with her whole heart, and never once asked for armor first. By dawn, the storm had weakened. A gray light pushed through the dirty cabin window. Elena was already awake, sitting straight-backed on the bench, hands wrapped around the tin cup, as composed as a person can be after a night like that. For a second, I almost wondered if I had imagined it. Then she looked at me, and I knew I had not. A distant sound cut through the morning, faint at first, then clearer. Voices, machines, search and rescue. Relief hit me so hard, I had to sit up slowly to keep from stumbling. Elena stood first. They found us. We stepped outside into a world of white and broken branches. The sky was pale. The wind had dropped to something human again. Far off through the trees, bright jackets moved between the snow. I shouted before I even thought about it. A ranger waved. Within minutes, they were around us with blankets, radios, and quick question, practiced hands. One of them checked Elena's pulse and asked how long we had been sheltered. Another asked who found the cabin. I opened my mouth, but Elena answered first. "He did," she said, nodding toward me. "He kept us alive." I wanted to protest. We had kept each other alive. But then I saw Ava. She was running through the snow behind the rescue team, crying before she even reached us. "Mom!" She threw herself at Elena first, arms around her so tight it looked painful. Elena held her with both arms and closed her eyes for one small second. Then Ava turned to me. Her face was red with cold and panic and relief. "Mason." She hit my chest like she was trying to make sure I was real. I held her, and the guilt that hit me then was so sharp it almost bent me. "You're okay," she kept saying. You're both okay." I pressed my face into her hair and closed my eyes. I did not deserve the way she was holding me. On the ride back to the lodge, Ava sat between us on the rescue sled, clutching one of my hands and one of Elena's. She kept talking through tears and nervous laughter. I barely heard the words. All I could think was this: trust is not the same as innocence. Trust is a gift. And I had almost become the kind of man who treats a gift like something breakable only after he drops it. That night, after the doctors checked us and the lodge finally went quiet, Elena stopped me in the hallway while Ava slept. Her face was pale from exhaustion, but her voice was steady. "If you love my daughter," she said, "then what happened between us ends in that mountain." I looked at her for a long moment, then I nodded. Because she was right. Some mistakes ask to be repeated. The worst ones ask to be protected. "I understand," I said. She studied me one last time, then stepped back. And that was it. No second confession, no hidden promise, No excuse dressed up as pain. By morning, we drove home. I stayed with Ava. I loved her better after that, or at least I tried to. More honestly, more carefully. Like a man who had finally seen how fast a single weak moment could put a crack through something good. I never forgot the cabin. I never forgot the kiss. But the part that stayed with me most was not Elena's mouth on mine. It was her saying, while the storm still had us trapped, "Be the man she can keep trusting after life stops being easy." That line followed me home. It still does. Because love is not tested by how deeply you feel, and it is tested by what you refuse to destroy.